On November 25th of last year, then President-elect Trump proposed 25% tariffs on Canadian and Mexican imports. This came with some concern, as the U.S. imports about 4.4 million barrels of petroleum from Canada each day. So at the end of the year, I spoke to Patrick DeHaan, head of petroleum analysis at GasBuddy, to get some insight into what this could mean for fuel prices. Simply put, he wasn't convinced that these tariffs were happening, at least on oil.
Our forecast makes the assumption that tariffs will not happen simply because of the huge potential ramifications. But if we're wrong and they do happen, it could have a drastic and negative impact on what you pay at the pump. Collaterally, it could also have a negative impact on the U.S. and Canadian economies, which is also why we don't think tariffs will be implemented as President Trump has threatened.
But yesterday, now President Trump said this while signing executive orders from the Oval Office.
I think we'll do it February 1st.
25% on both, sir.
Sir, on each.
On each,
yeah.
I spoke to DeHaan today, and still for him, tariffs are a wild card.
This may not happen, but if it does happen, it certainly could have a wide range of impacts. That's still very difficult to grasp given the profound relationship between countries like the U.S. and Canada and the U.S. and Mexico.
He says at today's prices, 25% tariffs on oil could mean 30 to 35 cents a gallon increases on the price of gas. So what areas of the country would be most impacted?
Probably the areas where more of that Canadian oil is consumed, areas like the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes is a direct pipeline, several pipelines from Canada, from the oil sands in Alberta down to the Great Lakes, areas like Detroit, Cleveland, Toledo, Chicago, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Much of the Great Lakes and Midwest has access to those in-bridge pipelines that run all the way down from Canada into the United States.
One thing President Trump has said on multiple occasions is, quote, drill baby drill, referring to his plan for less regulation surrounding oil production in the country. This approach to energy policy has been interpreted as a means for lowering costs. But in reality, does it play out that way?
But you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. That's essentially what's happening here. Is you can make it easier for the oil industry to invest in raising drilling, but that doesn't necessarily translate to an increase in U.S. oil production overnight, nor is that oil the quality that we need, especially here in areas of the Great Lakes. So a lot of Americans have wrongly made the assumption that easing drilling requirements somehow will translate into increases in U.S. oil production. But oil companies produce only at the behest of economics. If oil prices are higher, oil companies produce more. If oil prices are lower, they generally produce less. And so the president, in the grand scheme of this being a globally traded commodity, the president has a limited amount of control into driving oil prices up or down.
Reporting in Toledo, Ohio, I'm Jaden Jefferson.